UPN and WB Folkworks putting us on dead time slots. So, back in the day, at least in the wanted rights, we can't speak for the settled land. If you lived in the settled land, then you would have saw Sailor Moon on YTV, and the time stead would have been good. But if you were in the wanted rights, then you wanted to watch Sailor Moon. Well, you could only see it at the time on UPN and WB. And UPN and WB were not known for giving our show a good time. Sometimes it was 5:30. Sometimes it was 5 o'clock, 5 or 5:30. Sometimes it was 6 or 6:30. Times where most folks would still be asleep. I don't know. So, why did we get those bad times? I don't know. Because the other shows didn't want to have their time shifted for a new coming show. No one really seemed to know, but whatever the grounds was, UPN and WB gave us early time slots. And let's be honest about it. It did not. That was a handicap our show, no need what, had a hard time overcoming. It wasn't like when we got the USA deal and 9 between 97 YL to 9 between 98 YL, or the Cartoon Net cartoon deal from 9 between 98 YL to 20. It wasn't like that. At least on there you had a good time. On UPN and WB, the time was always against us. So that's where a lot of folks either you knew it would be on and you set your film player to film it, or you were just lucky enough and gotten up at that time, and God forbid you had a sleepless night and that was how it went. Now, so that's why our show didn't do so well in the Wonder Reich's the first run around. Because someone at UPN, someone at WB back in the day thought that our show would do good at that time, or someone else who had a show on at that time didn't want to have their show shifted. I don't know, Sailor Moon. It's hard to say what was going on at that time. My guess was a little bit of both. The older shows that have been on UPN and WB for some time didn't want a new time given to them. So that could have been one grounds for it. Another ground is that was the only time they had open, and that was that. Why? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know who was running or overseeing the UPN and WB Folkworks at that time that made that call, but our show was put at that time. And that's why our show didn't do very well on UPN and WB at the time, but did truly well on USA and Cartoon later on. When we talked about being on YTV in the settled land, well, at least there it was on at a good time. So anyway, really I don't really know much, except that was a big handicap to overcome. So you might ask yourself, why would our show be put on at that time? The only thing I can come up with there, Uranus, is that someone thought that was a good time. Someone at WB, UPN back in the day, I guess thought, well, we got nothing else after that, nothing else at that time, put it there, and then they'd wonder why the watch time wasn't there. And I'm not making it up. The watch time was not there And it wasn't that the folks weren't watching it, it was that the folks were either asleep at the time, so very few folks were watching it at all. So that's what led to us losing our UPN and WB deal, because the watch time wasn't there. But watch time at 5 or 6 in the morning, unless it's never going to be good, you know. Now, I would say to myself that, that was a handicap that our show had to go through, and I'm sure there were other shows that were going through that same handicap too. And you might say, well, that was unfair of UPN and WB to give you those bad time slots. And you would say, yes, it was. But there's really truly nothing that we could have done about it. We were lucky enough to get ourselves on a Folkwork. We were probably lucky enough for UPN and WB to even pick up our show from Deep. And keep in mind, the Folkworks that you could get any kind of show on, like my show back in the day, were in between. Because NBC and and ABC didn't really want us. CBS didn't want us. So it was either that. But yeah, I don't know why it was done. Well, the only guess I can come up with, Sailor Moon, is that someone thought that that was such a good thing. That someone thought that kids were awake at that time. Some might have been, but it has to do with what time you got up, or, but most folks weren't up at that time. Unless that's what time you got up to get ready to go to learn. But, I don't know. But for whatever grounds, that was a flaw we had to overcome. So if you were watching it in UPN back in the day, or WB back in the day, that was what time you saw it. Or that's what time you set your film player to film it at. Which is truly sad. So, we just want to end our film. If you liked us, what we're doing, like our film, and watch us over here at, Sailor Moon for Life, or watch the last film we made yesterday over here, when we talked about, what did we talk about? Where Sailor Saturn was at. Alright, I'm Sailor Moon, Sailor Uranus. We'll see you later. Bye.